Joe, tonight we're going to start off by talking about Dabo Swinney, who fired off of the media, but we'll talk about Oregon State and Oregon, Michigan and Nebraska, Illinois and Indiana. But we got to go into South Carolina, into Clemson, South Carolina specifically, and talk about Dabo Swinney. He was in the press conference today saying, if they let me go, I'm not done. I'm 55 and I'm not going to the beach. We've won this conference 8 out of the last 10 years. I have a long memory. I know what we've done. Do you? I think Dabo is feeling the heat today at his press conference, and he's firing back to some of the media. When you hear some of Dabo's comments today, how do you respond to those situations?
Two things. So I think that there's the obvious side of this that everyone's pointed out. He's crashing out. He absolutely is. I think that he understands that there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders at the current moment, and he's underperforming. Last year's underperformance was justified. The team was shaky. It was dealing with a lot of headaches, coaching issues from his defensive coordinator. They weren't living up to the typical Clemson hype, but the roster was still developing. It was young. They had roster holes that they had to figure out. And they just eked their way into the playoff and the ACC championship game. This year was a lot worse. This team was supposed to be a title favorite. It wasn't baseless to claim that they were one of the best rosters in the country, but it is baseless to assume that this team is suddenly going to fix its problems overnight. But Blake, the last time that this man did this, Tyler from Spartanburg thing, the last time he did this, they beat Notre Dame. And they finished the year with a solid finish. Not a crazy good finish, but a solid finish. But they bounced back after he had his weird media moment where he completely went over the top in responding to the caller. He basically did the same thing this time, but he directed it at the media. All I am saying, Blake, is does this mean, is this some sort of a catalyst for them to get locked back in because he's realizing that there's a lot of pressure on him?
Dabo Swinney's buyout in 2025 is $60 million.
That's nuts.
He ain't going nowhere. He's not going to go anywhere. What I think the situation that holds right now is that, yes, he feels pressure. Yes, he feels these situations are coming up. They're underperforming. But he's got to respond differently from it. And I think he's making too small of light to it, meaning you can't come out here and say that, oh, well, we've won the conference 8 of the last 10 years. I mean, people are asking questions in reference to what's going wrong. And you have to answer those questions right and justly, because that's the media's job. That fans want to know. You could get paid $60 million to actually go to the beach if they fired you. That's a large sum of money. People deserve to have questions answered by saying, I have a long memory. Well, does your long memory go back when you didn't want to go in the portal and your offensive line continues to lead the ACC in tackles for loss? What about when you can't, in the first half of any game that you've played, complete more than 50% of your passes? How does that work? So, Joe, he is crashing out. But where do they go from here? I still think they have talent, and they're not technically out of this thing. They could run the table and still find – they only have one ACC loss. How do they finish?
How they finish is obviously it's the broad question that we ask for any time that a coach has an atrocious start to a year. There is a world where they can finish 10-2, and there's a world where they can be on the front door of an ACC championship and to potentially get in there. It's going to be tough sledding. We've talked about how the fact that they lost to Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech has this really favorable path to get to the ACC championship game. Now that they've lost the head-to-head, that's really going to cost them. But, Blake, I do think you bring up the point here. Just because things haven't gone the way that they were supposed to, it doesn't mean that they're going to get rid of them. Historically, before Dabo got there, Clemson was a good program. They were never expected to always be in the ACC championship game. The way that they're playing right now is probably more on par with what the Clemson program was like before he started taking them to national titles.
Literally.
What they're doing right now, where they're 9-3, 10-2, and they're in the mix at the top of the conference, is more replicable or more comparable of what it was like before he really, really took over. So they're not going to fire him just because he created high expectations for himself and now he can't meet them. You said the most important part about this. $60 million is insane. I don't think Clemson has that kind of bread in their athletic departments to can him. Who are they going to go hire and then spend $60 million for him to go sit on his ass?
The biggest lie about the A&M Jimbo Fisher thing was the $75 million. It wasn't $75 million. It was $100 million. You do realize that because they had to fire all their staff. They had to go and do the buyout for Elko. They had to go do all the buyouts for all the other coaches. They had to give them discretionary first-year NIL money. I mean, Joe, at some point, no. I mean, it is an $100 million investment for like A&M to do it. The next coach that goes to the University of Clemson, newsflash, is going to hit the portal. They're going to. So Clemson fans, you haven't, listen, as someone who covers a specific team day in and day out, Joe, collectives are still a thing. The court system literally came out and said you can still do third-party collectives. They don't go through the same things that every other program goes through. And you tried to build it from within like the old days. You have a problem. I'm just going to call it like I see it. You have a problem in the interior of your offensive line that showed up the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You should have gone and replicated that. You could have gone and gotten Josh Thompson. You could have gone and gotten some of these guys in the portal. You could have gone and solidified things for Cade Klubnik. But, Joe, they didn't. They didn't. And I think that is ultimately – let's talk about what's actually hurting them. You recruited from within. That's great. The problem is that everybody else is doing that and then supplementing their rosters, and that's how they're beating you.
So you just brought this up, and it made me think of something that we haven't talked about yet, and we didn't talk about it on Sunday. This year was supposed to be the year for him to prove I'm doing it my way and it's working. I'm doing it my way, and despite everybody going out there and saying that I'm doing it wrong, I am going to defy the odds, and I'm going to prove to you that high school recruiting can still work, and we'll take 2 guys in the portal. I don't know how much more evidence in the world of college football, forget proving Dabo is wrong. I don't know how much more evidence you need to show that if you do not grab at least 5 or so guys, they don't need to be starters, players through the portal to round out your roster, you're not going to succeed. And there's very few programs that are doing what Dabo's doing. Clemson's the most glaring because it's the most stark. We expect them to be able to go and grab 10 Will Helts if they wanted to. It's insane to think.
Week 1. Who had the number 1 portal class in the country?
Yeah, exactly the point.
Exactly to your point, it's showing up on the field. Newsflash. When Eric Singleton left Georgia Tech, what did they have to go and do?
They went and brought in Eric Rivers.
Wait, who had the big catch to end it?
Right.
Oh, got it. Again, I mean, Dabo can do and say what he wants, but at some point he's got to look himself in the mirror. Them asking him that question is not conducive. I would love to see the FanDuel odds of what their over-under is right now for the rest of the season. Like, what is their
win total? I don't know if they.
What is their win total? You know, is it 8? Is it 7? Is it 9? Is it 10? I mean, we might need to go over to FanDuel. 3. We might need to go over to FanDuel 4 and figure it out.
I don't know if FanDuel tracks midseason win totals, but I know that FanDuel would be excited that we're mentioning them a lot of times.
Yeah, FanDuel we'll definitely write all those down. FanDuel might have it, or they might not. Yeah, let's write all those down.